So it happened that the battle over Caruthers Canyon concluded with a decisive victor, the town of Silverwood. The actions of three outsiders, the courier, Russell, and Glenn, had irrevocably changed the canyon. With their tribe decimated by Glenn, the remaining sand wolves fled Caruthers Canyon, forever traumatized by the destruction of their kin. Though few in number, the survivors swore an oath to enact vengeance on Glenn and the courier who failed to stop him.
With the canyon securely in NCR hands, Silverwood quickly developed into a regional hub for mining and commerce. Settlers from across California flocked to the town, eager to share in its prosperity. Civilization had made its mark. Within a few years, most of the townsfolk had never heard of the Sandwolves, though a few would never forget. Eventually, word of a great duel in Utah reached town. Travelers said the courier had died, then rose again to fight the man in black. The people of Silverwood prayed for the courier, though they feared the worst.
Unable to overcome his inner demons, Vickers succumbed to chem abuse not long after his meeting with the courier. He would be buried in an unmarked grave near Freeside.
With a tunneler threat neutralized by the courier, Hendershot soon established himself as a major arms dealer. Though the Van Graffs chafed at the presence of strong competition, Hendershot remained safe in Cholla Mountain, and his business thrived. Several of Hendershot's clients shared stories of the courier's demise in Utah. This concerned Hendershot until he heard another rumor. A wild-eyed smuggler told him that the courier had risen and fought the man in black. Hendershot hoped, but he couldn't believe.
Moved by the courier's advice, Finley set out to meet the followers. Surprised by their compassion, he shed his old identity and set out to heal others. He believed his old friend Chance would have wanted it.
Reveling in the defense of Silverwood, Charlie's bravery was lauded by the townspeople of Silverwood. With his newly arrived service records in hand, Charlie immediately became a respected figure in Silverwood. As the previous sheriff had abandoned his office, a collection of citizens urged Charlie to run. Though initially hesitant, he eventually agreed and won in a landslide victory. Hobo Charlie was no more. He was now Sheriff Charlie.
Emboldened by the courier's advice, Briggs sold his shares in the saloon and headed west. His unique, cinema-themed saloons quickly flourished and grew into a popular chain, bringing Briggs wealth and recognition. He would use his newfound wealth to finance dozens of films, all of them directed by Albert Breach. Unfortunately, while visiting the set of Bride of the Deathclaw, Briggs would be decapitated by a vertibird rotor in a freak accident. Mourned by hundreds in the growing film industry, he would be immortalized in a bronze statue outside Albert Breach Studios.
Miss Cat's valiant contribution to the defense of Silverwood surprised many townsfolk, though her death was even more shocking. Despite the objections of a few citizens, Miss Cat was buried with full honors, alongside other fallen defenders.
Having fallen to Russell's knife, Mayor Brandon was given an obligatory funeral service, even though the townsfolk held him in contempt. His term as mayor would eventually be commemorated with an ornate toilet constructed in the town hall.
Moved by the courier's encouragement, Sullivan moved to Reno and opened his own gym. Though he initially struggled, Sullivan eventually gained recognition for his skill as a coach and would be sponsored by the Bishop family. He would go on to train some of the most successful prize fighters in New Reno.
Irrevocably altered by the crucible of battle, Parmley looked beyond himself for the first time in his life. Determined to make a difference, he enlisted with the NCR, eventually earning the title of Ranger. Serving at multiple theaters with distinction, Parmley had almost forgotten the courier when he heard about a duel in the mountains of Utah. Another ranger told Parmley that the courier had died, and then was resurrected, only to fight the devil himself. Unsure what to believe, Parmley would say a prayer for the courier, but hesitated to hope.
With the blood of the Sandwolves dripping from his blade, Glanton and his gang set out for new frontiers. Travelers spoke about him in hushed tones, mentioning distant tribes scalped, whole villages destroyed. Others said he went to Utah. They spoke of an unholy alliance, then whispered another name, Marco.
What began as a simple bounty job had grown into a powerful experience for Russell, one which would forever alter his identity and outlook. Having grown to trust the courier, Russell learned that the bonds he found in the Desert Rangers were not entirely unique. This new friendship, forged through shared hardships, revived a feeling he hadn't felt in a decade: hope for the Mojave Wasteland and himself. Though Russell would remain haunted by the massacre of the Sandwolves, he found peace with the demise of his former owner, Titus Vulcanus. Russell hoped he would be able to repay the courier somehow, though he suspected it wouldn't take long. He knew that their greatest challenges were waiting in the Mojave Wasteland and in distant lands, because war never changes. What's up? Chems are good, weapons are better. Later.
That's the way.